Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I welcome you to the series History, Science and Faith in Islam. It is a narrative designed to foster a renewal of faith based on knowledge of our history, science, and culture. Today's session focuses on the life and times of Timur of Samarkand, conqueror of 5 empires. By the year 1395, the Byzantine capital of Constantinople was surrounded on all sides by Ottoman territories. The inexorable advance of the Turks had made them masters of southeastern Europe and of Anatolia. Ottoman cavalry had crossed the river Danube and marched onto the plains of Hungary. Desperate to save his throne, the Greek Emperor Manuel appealed to Pope Boniface IX and the sovereigns of Europe to help. In 1396, the counts and barons of Europe answered the call. Taking time off from their civil strife and the 100 Years' War, the soldiers of the cross from France, Germany, England, Holland, and Hungary met the Turks at the Battle of Nicopolis. The Crusaders suffered a crushing defeat, and victory belonged to Ottoman Sultan Bayezid. After Nicopolis, Europe had no stomach to fight and became more interested in trade with the fledgling Ottoman Empire. Bayezid proceeded to lay siege to the Byzantine capital, Constantinople. Dejected, Emperor Manuel was preparing to surrender Constantinople to Sultan Bayezid when help arrived from an unexpected quarter, namely Timur of Samarkand. Throughout the 13th and 14th centuries, the Pope and the monarchs of Europe made a concerted effort to woo the Mongols. The fate of Asia, indeed of the old world, hung in the balance as the Mongol princes toyed with their preferences, first for Christianity, then for Islam, and yet again at other times for Buddhism. After the death of Genghis Khan, his vast empire was divided into 4 major regions. One was Yuan, that is the Mongol dynasty of China, ruled by the Khans, meaning the great Khans. Kublai Khan, who ruled between 1268 and 1294, grandson of Genghis Khan, was the greatest ruler of the dynasty. The second was Chagatai Empire, named for the son of Genghis, centered in Samarkand and including the vast steppes of Central Asia, as well as the fertile valley of Fergana and extending south to Afghanistan. The third was Persia, ruled by the Ilkhans, meaning deputies of the great Khan. The fourth was the vast region between Hungary and the Caspian Sea, including much of what is today Russia, which was ruled by the Tatars, called the Golden Horde because Batu, the son of Jochai and grandson of Genghis Khan, had an emblem of gold on his tent. By the year 1300, Islam had won the battle of the heart over Christianity and Buddhism, and the Ilkhans of Persia, the Chagatai of Central Asia, and the Tatars of the Volga had all accepted Islam. Only Mongolia and China remained outside the fold of Islam, and the Khans were submerged into the vast Chinese milieu. In Russia and Central Asia, the Mongols exercised their authority through their governors and satraps. By common agreement, These satraps were Tatars, a Turkoman tribe related to but otherwise separate and distinct from the Mongols. The Tatars had been conquered by Genghis Khan, but had later joined the Mongol armies in their invasions of Khorasan, Russia, and Persia. A truce existed between the Mongols and the Tatars, whereby sovereignty would belong to the Mongols, while the Tatars would serve them as their administrators and regents. In the first half of the 14th century, by the year 1350, all four of the Mongol regions experienced civil wars and a breakup of central authority. The Ilkhanid Empire in Persia fell apart after the death of Prince Abu Sa'id. In the latter half of the 14th century, Persia was ruled by a host of princes called the Muzaffars. Isfahan, Shiraz, Tabriz, Herat, each had its own sovereign. These petty princes waged war against each other and continuously raised taxes on the peasantry to pay for their internal fights. The peasantry suffered. Similarly, the Chagatai region, which extended from Afghanistan to Mongolia, was contested between various warlords. The Tatars of the Volga, a loose collection of Mongol tribes, was united only when they raided the Russian hinterlands for booty. Indeed, the Tatars burned down Moscow in 1382. Out of this period of instability rose Timur, commonly known as Tamerlane, who was perhaps the greatest conqueror the world has ever known. Timur is studied in regional histories as the conqueror who defeated the Ottomans at the Battle of Ankara in 1402, or the man who slaughtered over 100,000 persons in Delhi in 1399. Such a narrow approach does injustice to this great conqueror. The extent of Timur's conquest must be measured in the context of observations made by writers of the era. Ibn Battuta, writing in 1360, said that there were 7 great emperors in the world. 1. The Marinid Sultan of Morocco. 2. The Mamluk Sultan of Egypt. 3. The Ottoman Sultan of Turkey. 4. The Il Khan of Persia. 5. The Khan of the Chagatai Empire in Central Asia. 6. The Tughlaq Emperor of India. And 7. The Ming Emperor of China. One may disregard the Sultan of Morocco, whose name Ibn Battuta had to include to be politically correct to his own sovereign. Timur conquered 5 of the other 6 empires, from Delhi to Moscow, from Amu Darya to the Sinai deserts of Egypt. The flag of Timur fluttered unchallenged. He conquered Russia and destroyed the power of the Tatars of the Volga. He captured and burned Isfahan and Delhi, and brought an end to the Tughlaq dynasty of India. He took and burned Damascus, and forced the Mamluks of Egypt to pay him tribute. He defeated the Ottomans, captured Bayezid at the Battle of Ankara, and almost obliterated the Ottoman Empire in its infancy. Only China escaped the wrath of his sword because Timur died on his way to conquering that ancient land in the year 1405. Timur's empire extended over 7 million square miles, an area more than double that of the United States today. The rise of modern Russia may be dated from the time of Timur, because it was he who destroyed the power of the Volga Tatars, under whose yoke the Russians had toiled for 200 years. It was only after the death of Timur that the dukes of Moscow and St. Petersburg started the consolidation of their national territory, changing in the process the history of the world. In making this assessment of Timur, it must be remembered that he was a devout Muslim who carried a portable royal mosque with his army. His entourage always included ulama and khazis. But it must also be remembered that most of his conquests and his destructions were also directed at Muslims. Islamic history, since the time of Muawiyah, has been subject to a tension between the superordinate values of Islam and the more mundane values of material gain and personal ego. We see this tension in the extreme in the person of Timur. Whenever he conquered a territory, he took great care not to destroy the mosques and Sufi tombs or to kill the ulama. But he was a born warrior whose instincts for battle impelled him to seek the mastery of the known world. The secular instincts in him won over the sacred. The love of power triumphed over the injunctions not to shed the blood of fellow believers. He was lenient to those who accepted his mastership, but was merciless to those who opposed him. These two currents, the secular and the sacred, run in parallel throughout Islamic history. Timur was a Tatar and was born in Khorasan near Samarkand in 1327. In an age when the royal scepter was won by the sword, Central Asia was the cradle of conquerors and would-be conquerors. The horsemen of Central Asia poured forth time and again, conquering the more settled inhabitants of northern India, Persia, and territories beyond. In time, they would settle down among the local population, only to be invaded by a fresh wave of nomads from the Asian plateau. Timur